Have you ever wondered what was out there in the night sky? Stared up at the stars in the hopes of seeing something out of the ordinary? Have you ever heard unexplainable noises coming from a vacant room, or watched a shadow cross the wall in front of you? Have you asked yourself if there's life after this one, or if you had life before? What about strange creatures that are mythical and elusive? Have you experienced deja vu, or felt a prompting to leave because you felt you were in danger? What if tomorrow you were on the fringe?
Welcome to On the Fridge. I'm Mark. Philip will be along shortly, hopefully. He had soccer tonight, so couldn't think of the word. I'm in trouble.
We've been having this problem.
Tonight we've got our permanent part-time co-hosts, Sam and Jess.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking ley lines and why they're important. But first things first, please visit our website, whatiftomorrowmedia.com, and visit our sponsors. We've got EMP Shield, Duke Cannon, which is one of my favorite products on the whole planet. We've got Conflicted the Game, and Patriot Supply. Please stop by and check out our sponsors. And if you don't feel like stopping by and checking those, if there's nothing there you need, and you still want to help out the show, buy us a coffee. Go to buymeacoffee.com/whatiftomorrow, and you can help the show out and help us try to improve our content even more. So with that, ladies, are you ready to get started?
I am.
Yay!
Please really buy them a coffee, because Mark and Pam are pretty sleepy tonight. So
oh my gosh,
could use it.
Yeah.
I need a monster. I'm not gonna lie. I need a monster right now, but I'll make it. I'll make it.
I'm awake, just tired because my legs are killing me. I went for a run this morning for the first time in a while, and
ooh.
Yeah.
So it's good to be sitting.
No. I don't run. If you see me running, try to keep up, because stuff just got really, really bad.
Something's going down. Mark's running.
It'll probably be me.
We got comments.
Yeah, as long as you can outrun me, you're good. And anybody.
Chris says hi. Tim says hi.
Chris.
Enzo's on here.
Oh, hey, Enzo.
Hey.
You know nothing about ley lines.
That's all right, Enzo. I know nothing.
Yeah. Let us educate you.
Help you out.
Enzo says, a run. Was someone chasing you?
Sadly, no. I did it all on my own, and now I'm paying for it.
Enzo, if I'm running, it's not someone, it's something. And it's probably not very pretty.
Ooh.
Oh my goodness. All right. Ley lines. Who wants to go first?
Go ahead and
start this night off.
Get us rolling.
Start. All right. So ley lines go back for a long, long time. But we're going to start at 1921, because that's when they really kind of came to the forefront.
When they got named, wasn't it?
Yes.
That's when they got named.
It's when they got, well, kind of. There were some monks and stuff way back when who, kind of knew something about them. They truly didn't have a name yet. I'm sure they all had names for them that they used. But Alfred Watkins was the one that brought it to the forefront. He was a British amateur archaeologist and a writer, and did several other things, and noticed that a lot of the ancient sites in the Great Britain area were kind of lined up, and he was wondering if there was something to it. started kind of mapping some stuff out and realized that some of these things were following in straight lines. Donut.
Much like a donut would rolling downhill.
I don't know who this
Exactly.
Facebook user is, but a donut rolling down the hill in front of me, maybe I might run. This sounds kind of like George. Is this George?
Let me run over.
Not showing your name, man.
I'll pull up Facebook so we can figure out names.
Oh my goodness. So while he's looking into this,
It is George.
Okay. Hey, buddy.
He realizes that a lot of the names of the buildings and other things on these lines had a version of ley in the name. Ley, Leeigh. Ley around that point meant a clearing or a meadow. That really has nothing to do with the name that he chose. He chose Ley Lines simply because there were so many leys on these lines, buildings and different things named with a ley in it somewhere. So that's how we get Ley Lines. I wish it was a little bit more incredible than that.
I know.
Well, I mean, it's very practical.
Here's the
It
book,
is.
The Old Straight Track.
Yeah.
That
That
Alfred
old
Watkins.
Mr. Watkins wrote. Yeah.
Yes, and if you want to read this, you can actually find it for free online. We were talking about that earlier, and I was so excited because I wanted to learn a lot about ley lines as what we know them today, and it's really not.
Yeah, he was talking about more of a navigational aid
He
type thing.
was, yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
like they were waypoints on a line and you used them to navigate, which it very well may be because at the time they were probably the only real landmarks that a fella had. So he may have been on to something. I mean, it kind of holds water.
Mhm.
Phil just texted. He said he'll be on in a few. So
awesome.
Okay. My guess is the reason why he leaned more towards them being actual pathways is because a lot of the back in the Roman times and stuff, they supposedly knew of these ley lines too, and they would use them to actually lay their roads down on. And they did the same thing when they came into the Great Britain area and conquered it. So a lot of the ley lines in Great Britain actually are roads
Mhm.
that you
Alright.
can travel.
The roads, yeah.
So
well, I can see that. That's
Mhm.
I think that's kind of where his theory came from. And just a heads up to anybody who wants to read that book, you can find that book for free online if you go hunting for it. I will
Mhm.
warn you, it is very flowery. He uses a lot of like poetry and stuff like this. It's more like it kind of reminds me of like a travel guide, like and
a
Mhm.
travel log.
and see the lovely sights, and it's kind of silly.
It-
Well,
But
and
Yeah.
right now, if you go to that region where he lived, there's actually people who do walks along those lines, to see the sites that he was talking about. You can't walk in a straight line between them, but they follow the road, which kind of meanders around to them.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So I think he could have been onto something. Be more like surveyors points, like
Exactly.
go
That's
to the
exactly.
giant stone circle, turn left, go for
Yeah.
2 days, turn right at the cow, and there's my barn.
And he did not feel that there was anything paranormal to them.
Yeah, he didn't think that.
No.
At all. Which, yeah, keep in mind this was written in like 1921 or 1924. Which was it? I can't remember.
Well, and that was
21.
21.
that
So-
was at the height of the whole paranormal craze in Great Britain, which really surprised me. So he just must not have bought into it.
He didn't hold truck with it at all. But also keep in mind a lot of things have changed since 1921 in the way that people think, in scientific advancements, even in just advancements within the paranormal community have really
Right.
changed a lot. So yeah, treat it as a historical document.
Yeah. I think he didn't really attribute anything paranormal to it, but he tried to latch on to what was going on at the time just a little bit. So
He noticed a
he
pattern.
called Yeah, when he was naming everything, so like he had this theory that there were these specific men who had built these pathways, and he called them Coleman or Dodman because Cole and Dodd, two other names, were frequently in there with all the lays. So I don't think he was very inventive. He just kind of used what was in his face. So he called these men, these supposed men that in his head built these, Coleman and Dodman. And he thought there's the chalk drawings, the big, huge, gigantic glyphs, the chalk glyphs
Right.
in
The
Great Britain.
giant. And
Yeah, there's one called the Longmen of Wilmington. And I was going to send you a picture of that, but I couldn't find a decent one in time. But there is one of those gigantic geoglyphs in chalk, and it looks like he's holding a square. And he was sure that this geoglyph was a picture of one of these Coleman or Dodman holding their ley line measurement equipment. That's how he kind of tried to... Yeah,
bit of a stretch.
It really is. I don't... Bless his heart. He tried so hard.
He did. But you know what? He really, for the time and for the information that he was tackling, he put together some really good stuff that it laid the foundation for what came after. So
absolutely. Without him, yeah.
Well, and you could still use those lines for navigation without actually following them. See, I've got point A, point B, and point C. That means I need to be over here at point D. You know,
yeah.
You can kind of triangulate your location. So, I mean, I can see where he might have been onto something. I don't know. Some of the theories that I've heard are kind of weird, even for me. But that one, I don't buy into it completely. But I can see where he was going with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Like he truly believed there was a reason why all these monuments and things were lined up. He never comes to the conclusion in his work. It just kind of gets fanciful, I think, because he didn't have an end game to it. So he just made it fanciful and fun for people to come and see. So
and people still come and see.
It didn't stay. It was popular for a little while, the ley lines, and then it kind of fell out of favor again. And then it kind of came back to the forefront in the 50s and the 60s when it got exciting again. And then it started getting woo, as people like to say.
John Michael, wasn't it?
Yes, that's exactly who.
Yeah. Well, actually, it started a little bit before that with a guy named Tony Wedd. He was a Royal Air Force pilot. And in 1961, he was flying over an area and realized in his own head, he came up with this, like it was told to him, that they had been laid down by prehistoric societies to connect to alien spacecraft. Now, if you watch Ancient Aliens at all, you'll know that Giorgio Sokolov really digs on this theory. It's kind of his shtick, right?
Well, Giorgio is quite the fellow. I'd love to meet him. I think a lot of the stuff that he comes up with has some merit, and some of it is some of it's even farther than woo.
He is an exciting fellow. He is.
I'd love to have him on the show. That'd be fun.
I don't know if we could get all of his hair into the screen, though.
I would make room on the screen.
He would have to be centrally located.
He's a hoot. I mean, I've watched him just to watch him. He's a hoot.
He is a hoot.
And like I said, some of the stuff he brushes across, I mean, you might be onto something. And then some of it's like, I don't know what he's put in your brownies, man, but you ain't sharing.
I try not to judge. You know, everybody has their own kind of woo. So,
I mean, people probably say the same thing about me. I'm sure.
I'm sure there's lots of people that say stuff about us. So 1961, Tony Wedd starts the whole process of kind of adding the woo
There's your hair joke.
into the ley lines. So, as you guys were saying, John Mitchell in 1969 wrote a book called The View Over Atlantis, which I do not have a copy of. It posited that ley lines were actually Earth energies and were roadways to interplanetary worlds. So somehow their energy or whatever could move you to other worlds. Now, it was kind of generalized, so I don't know if he meant other worlds or other dimensions or parallel dimensions or...
Look at some of the stuff we're seeing along some of these ley lines. I mean, it could be dimensional or teleportational. Who knows?
Well, it's the first time that you start hearing little bits and pieces of what I consider to be true now, that they are Earth energies. So regardless of all that's come in the past on this, they were here long before we were. We didn't place them here. Nothing brought them and put them here. They are literally just a part of the world we are on.
Right. And a lot of times, even new discoveries that they find from the ancients are found on the existing lines that they've already plotted.
Yes, even here in America.
So,
yeah.
I mean, call it coincidence, call it whatever, it's just... And, oh, here you go.
So the English speaking communities are not the only ones who recognize ley lines and what they did. Did you have any information on those, Pam?
I did.
All those dragon lines in the east.
There's a few different ones. Yeah, the dragon lines are the most interesting, I think, but there's also some other ones from other cultures.
I know there's the German alignments that were being talked about. I think it was almost simultaneously to when Alfred Watkins was doing his work. It was in the 1920s. The guy that worked on it ended up, I think he published his findings and ideas around 1929, but he also turned out to be a huge Nazi. So it kind of killed the entire research and the entire everything that went along with the German alignments. Those were there. They're just not talked about because of who he was, and rightly so. Shouldn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
because
I mean,
he's obviously a horrible human being.
Rightly, but
regardless,
also sadly,
you lost some information too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Regardless of the source, the research was interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but I don't know what would have been credible.
Right. Well,
based on the persona that was
the Nazis were very, very interested in all things paranormal. Supernatural. They did a lot of serious research.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, we could do a whole show on
that could be a cool show to do, just on what the Germans were.
Oh, Chris, if you're listening, write that down for us, because she's right. That would be an excellent show.
Yeah. That would be some Nazi.
It's like they're super weapons. I mean, everybody wants to watch the show about the Nazi super weapons. What about the Nazi psychic weapons that they claim to be working on?
Now that would be interesting.
They weren't good guys, but it is fascinating.
They were not good people at all. 100%. Just make sure everybody knows that we do not agree with anything they did or said.
Well, but if you forget what has happened in the past, then you just leave a path for it to happen in the future.
Oh, we're not forgetting what they did, but at all.
Yeah.
I just don't want to give them any accolade. Yes. That's the word.
Just, we can call them the bad people. But they did some interesting stuff.
Bad people. They did. And it is unfortunate that information cannot be used because of the fact that it fell so in line kind of with what Alfred Watkins was doing at the time. We don't really know what it said because
Well,
It's off
at
limits.
that point in time, Germany, not necessarily the Socialist Party there, but Germany in general was home to some of the best mathematicians
Mhm.
and engineers in the entire world.
Now, there was a guy that was working on it or near it with him. And what was his name? His name was Heinsch, Heinsch. And says he was a much different kind of man, and he ultimately fled Germany. But he did conduct work on ancient linear patterns in Germany in fruitful collaboration with I'm massacring these names. Lugering, I don't know, Lugering, and in pilot studies in England, France, and the Middle East. So there were also studies going on of these lines in these different countries, at least 4 different countries.
I wonder how much of that just got ignored because of all the drama going on in the world at the time.
Some of it did, but I also think that Heinz was able to take some of it with him. So we didn't lose everything. Looks like they were able to keep the good stuff out of it. And there was also some studies that were going on in Belgium at the time too, near Antwerp, in relations to lines. So there was a lot of places.
I think of a lot of it just was not paid attention to because it was just considered a pseudoscience.
Yeah,
and still
is today, really. I mean,
yeah.
But I can see that there's something to it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there absolutely is.
I mean,
it's there. So
one or two things are coincidence. Dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens are,
and not, especially when it's not just in one place. It's all over the world.
Right. Well, look at the St. Michael's line.
Mm-hmm.
There's a line you draw through, and there's like 7 different places that's attributed to St. Michael.
Yeah.
I mean,
I have a map for that on there we can bring up later, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hey.
I have all the information on that line. It's super interesting. So before we do the Chinese dragon lines, because I think they are the most interesting. Just a quick touch on, so the Inca had lines, they were called them their spirit lines, and they are part of their beginning, the beginning of their culture. Supposedly the root of that was in Cusco, and the line shot straight out from there and went out. And there's not a whole ton more of that, of course, because we don't know a lot about their history.
Yeah, because it was intentionally deleted.
Basically. And then we have the dreaming tracks, which are from the Australian Aborigines. And this, while small, it's part of their creation story. I think it's one of the most poetic way of using the tracks or the ley lines. In their creation story, the totemic beings, their ancestors, traveled those lines as... Hey, Phil. They traveled those lines singing, and they sang out the names of all the things to bring them into being. And that is how the earth was formed for the Aborigines. And so today, when Australians say they're going to take the walkabout, when they're going to go on their journey, they often sing these songs along their way. And they're the songs that the original Totemecs sang to bring things into being so that they can travel in their footsteps. So I think it's kind of poetic.
Yeah.
That is kind of neat.
Yeah. And they say that singing on these lines energizes them and actually brings part of that energy back into you. So you come back feeling better, which kind of lines up with the entire, especially with Native Americans believing that you should always walk in the grass barefoot and be one with Mother Nature because you'll be re-energized, which I think actually works.
It does.
So,
you see that across multiple lines.
How you doing, Phil?
All right, man.
Phil.
Hey, guys. I just want to interject something about Australia. I've been on a walkabout before. It's involved a lot of alcohol.
Did it involve a lot of bars?
It involves some singing, probably off key.
I, for one, always feel better when I sing. Nobody else does, but I do.
No, Australia is awesome, and where I was at, it was we were out in the outback, and there was a spiritual feel to it, and I have my own opinions on the Aboriginals. Yeah, Enzo, it probably was more of a stumble about.
A crawl about.
Yeah, sometimes even a drag about.
Maybe
I'm
in a
sorry.
pass out about.
Yeah, that was there
That's
too.
awesome.
Anyway, sorry, I don't mean to.
Oh no, that's comedy gold right there.
Did you want to tell them about dragon paths, Pam?
No, go ahead.
No? Okay. So dragon paths are the ones I find the most interesting and the most relevant to all the cultures, to everything. It's really interesting, and I started studying ley lines about 12 years ago and started looking into these, and I found these just it's kind of amazing that this was setting in the Chinese culture for so long and no one outside of their culture seems to know about it, and you should. It's really relevant to everything that we kind of do or are involved with. So the ley lines in Chinese are called the heart of the dragon. In their story, the center heart of the dragon was in a small valley, and the veins of the dragon ran out of the valley and down into the hills and over the hills and grew its grid around the world, right? So it like connected itself over the top of it. And the dragon heart, as long as it beats, is strong and active and keeps those veins running full of energy. Now, seasonal rituals were performed to mark the running of the dragon's current through the earth with the corresponding astronomical influences happening in the skies. So everything that the ley lines do there is connected to the sky, which is true too. We found a lot of the ley lines actually match up to the constellations.
Yes.
Kind of like how the pyramids kind of match up to the constellations.
Orion,
So that
yeah.
kind of holds true there. Mounds were used to predict the timing of the beats of the pulses of the ley lines, while standing stones were erected to mark the path of the dragon. So now you're starting to get well outside of the Chinese culture. So you're starting to think about Easter Island, and you're starting to think about, just think of all the monuments that have been built. They say when the path of the dragon runs in straight lines for any distance, the energy that builds up can become a danger to all living things. But by erecting a barrier, such as a stone circle, a burial mound, or a building on such a line, the dangerous energy is diffused into the barrier. So right off from the beginning of their culture, they knew what they were for, and they knew what to build on them to diffuse the energy. So they're coming from a point where they already know what they're all about. They're not like, oh, look, all these buildings are connected. I wonder why they did that.
Yeah, it's almost like everyone else is trying to reverse engineer. Okay, we've got these buildings. How are they connected? And then you look at the dragon lines and you realize that the lines were in place prior. The buildings were put there as the stops, basically. And what I think is really interesting about the whole idea of the heart of the beast being the centralized thing of all of it, where it pumps out the pulses to all those small things. If you look at that, and there have been other people that have said this too, that it's almost like this system of lines around the world is almost like the nervous system in like a human being would be. So it'd be more like this is the heart of the earth pumping out everything that the body needs, that earth would need through these lines, which makes a lot of sense. And it kind of lends a lot of credence to how we look at things today when we talk about the fact that there's so much energy flow along these and how it can be disrupted and how different things occur at
So-
different times and how it's pulsed along them.
So what I'm getting from this is the Chinese remembered something that everybody else forgot.
Yeah, it's
They
like
all-
we held that.
The ancients knew what they were there for and built along them, just like the Chinese did. But the Chinese remembered because, well, they really kept good records. I mean, think about it. They've kept a record of. You can find out who bought what sometimes if you go through their records deep enough. 4,000 years ago.
hmm
Mhm.
Willie's question, is there any evidence that the ley lines were affected by the axis flipping at all? Not that I'm aware of. Do you know of any, Jess?
No, but of course, when the axis flipped, what was built here before then, I have no idea. So if it did affect them, we wouldn't know.
I don't
Um,
think the axis of the Earth flips. I think it's just the magnetic poles underneath the Earth.
Yeah,
I was gonna say,
I don't know. It's a good question.
There's evidence of crust displacement,
hmm
like the crust shifts. And I was watching something, and it would be like a total worldwide cataclysmic event because if that were the case, the theory is that there would be like 1,000-mile-an-hour winds. I mean, entire continents would be engulfed by tidal waves.
hmm
All that. I mean,
So everything that's here, no matter how old, would be kind of scrubbed.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the evidence seems to point out to it happening on a much slower scale than just an instant flip, though.
And
right.
one of the books that I was looking at, and I hate that I didn't get clear through it, but I didn't. It's the Ley Lines and Earth Energies, and it's talking about how there's even evidence that there's energy that comes through like the volcanic tubes, the lava tubes and stuff. That there's a lot that comes that way. So, if you have another cataclysm where there's a huge volcanic eruption or whatever, you're going to get new tubes and you're going to have new energy or new pathway for this energy to flow along. So yeah, it probably is a fluid thing. Just,
Yeah.
In our lifetime, it wouldn't be, but in the lifetime of the earth itself, yeah, it probably does change.
Yeah, I was watching a deal where they were talking about how the ley lines do shift and how the druids had attached people's souls to these places. And when the ley lines shift, these souls were stuck in this spot because the energy shifted.
Oh, I lost my train of thought and I had it too, man. It's kind of like if you look at what would be central of where all this energy comes from, if you liken it to a human brain, if you have surgery, if you lose a portion of your brain, it will rewire itself around that. It may not be exactly the same, but it will make a new path. It will grow new neurons to go different directions to do what it needs to do. Who's to say it wouldn't be the same thing, on a different scale for the earth itself?
Isn't that?
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of, to me? I mean, this may not be I guess it's related. To me, that seems to be a constant. Maybe like I don't know if I would call it a universal constant,
Mm-hmm.
but we have the ability to do that. Our
Mhm.
brains rewire.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems all the way down to the quantum level, all the way up to the universal level. It seems that happens. I mean, nature finds a way, or God finds a way, or however you want to describe it. Because I've even heard there's like highways in space, to help improve space travel here recently,
Mm-hmm.
to make you get from point A to point B faster or things like that. I don't know. I've always toyed with the thought of, is the universe a giant organism and we're just a minuscule part of it?
I mean, I've wondered that.
I would agree with that. That's probably exactly what
It
it's
makes you wonder if the bacteria in your body are, they've got a society and.
Mm-hmm. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Well, if you even look at time travel, look at the grandfather theory, where what would happen if you went back in time and killed your grandfather? Does that mean that you would disappear? No, it doesn't. What it basically means is time's going to correct itself, and from everything that they're finding, even down on the very smallest levels, time does correct itself. If it's messed with, it resets, it corrects, it takes the path back to where it would have been to begin with.
So,
We got a little off the ley lines there.
did we?
Yeah, but
Just
We
a
I
can
little.
think
get
it's
back.
related, though. I mean, I think
Yeah,
It
it's
is
all
related.
It's all related. It's all connected.
So, back on Dragon Pass. We'll get back on
My
track.
ley lines.
Get us out of the weeds, Jess.
Get out. So, okay. So the basis of the Dragon Pass is that, interestingly enough, the ones in China, the Chinese lines are not straight. They curve and they move. But when those same lines hit the Chinese boundaries, the old boundaries, not the new boundaries that have developed, they become straight. But they still work the same. Now, for the Chinese, they don't like straight lines. And this is going to go back to feng shui.
Yes.
So this is the Dragon Pass are the basis for feng shui. That's how feng shui came about, in case anybody doesn't know or wants to know about it. It's kind of interesting. That's why you see in their architecture, there are very rarely straight lines. And if there are, they're very short. If you look down an avenue of buildings in China, you will not see any roofs that meet. They're all like this, and lines are like this, and then there's curves. They don't like long straight lines because energy builds up on that line, and then it has no place to go but to you. And that's how feng shui came about, right?
Mhm.
So they were talking about, was talking about earlier that they built specific things on specific ley line areas to break up the energy, to disperse it or to collect it. And one of the ways they collected it was with pyramids. China has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pyramids. I would guarantee not a lot of people realize that.
I
When you
did
say
not know
pyramid,
that.
you automatically think of Egypt or the Mayan. China has hundreds of them. And there's actually a field, where does it say? In the Shenxi province of northern China, there's a field that has 100 pyramids in
Holy
it.
cow.
And it's on their biggest ley line.
It's almost like a whole field of solar panels then, collecting all that energy.
They're estimated to have been built between 10,000 and 5,000 BC.
That's amazing.
So that's how far long ago. And the Chinese know for a fact, I mean, in their histories, that those pyramids were batteries. They were collecting the energy off the ley lines. Now, how they got the energy from them or use that energy, that's lost to time, unfortunately. So now you can start looking at the other pyramids in the world. And a lot of people think that the Giza pyramids are batteries. So maybe.
I mean, that's pretty interesting stuff right there. I had no idea they were Chinese pyramids.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just lost it. Never mind.
My whole days have been like that.
My mind?
Yeah.
I lost my mind a long time ago.
So within these old chronicles from the Chinese, their old histories or whatever, they do talk about the ley lines, or the Dragon Pass, leave their area and they go into the Great Britain area and they straighten out. And this is in their histories. And they say in their histories that the people of these lands also built megaliths and all sorts of things on these to collect or disperse the power too, but that they think that the people in these areas are very interesting because they also use those stones to carve on and put the correct constellations to those points. And there was also always a point that showed you where the next stop on the line should be. So this has been in Chinese history all along, and we have all these archaeologists and stuff trying to root out what all these carvings and stuff on these megaliths and things like that mean. And all along, the Chinese have been sitting there going, duh, we told you in our history what these are.
Yeah. They've kept very meticulous records.
Mm-hmm.
But
Hmm.
also, it also seems to me, and I may be wrong, that Asian cultures, specifically, Chinese, Japanese, Southeast Asia, all those different cultures seem to be more spiritually based,
Mm-hmm.
whereas the West has gotten farther away from that.
Hmm.
I
So
don't think you're wrong.
I think there's something to be said about it, because
Yeah.
we all know that human beings are spiritual beings.
Mm-hmm.
They are.
100%.
And the hilarious thing is that especially the Celts, the British, all of that, they still hold those old Chinese beliefs, but without realizing that they're doing it. So as this trickled through and time passed, and things change a little bit, and some of the old ways are lost, it became other things. So it says the dragon power that flowed through the Leys was thought to build up in the spring and wane in the fall. And this led to the festival or harvest day of the Celts. These rites representing fertility were observed at Beltane, or the beginning of summer, and again at the ending of fall, or Samhain, at which a ritual involved killing the dragon. And they still do this. A dragon is still a part of it.
They do.
They don't know why dragons are so prevalent in the British Isles.
Well,
But we
I think
do.
that all
That's cool.
I think that all goes back to
Yeah.
the cataclysm 12,000 years ago, and everybody forgot that they were all connected at one point.
Yeah. And it continues to this day. So this festival continued on throughout the occupation by the Celts and into the Middle Ages. Many British family own coat of arms that honor ancestors who killed dragons. The goddess Ellen of the Ways was seen as the guardian of the old paths, and that's who they use in all their stuff. And then we move along. When the Romans arrived in Britain, they built their own roads on top of the old straight tracks, the lays that they found there. One reason that so many of the old Roman roadways in Britain seem to link together ancient stone monuments. They also found these old straight tracks in all of the countries that they conquered and built roads on top of those.
Mm-hmm.
So that whole area, I think that's why they considered over there more of a traveling system than anything.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So then we move up into when the Christians came up into the area. They built their churches on these old sacred sites because they thought, well, there must be something to these places. So they built their churches there. That's why most old churches.
I just sent Mark a email, and it's actually exactly what you're talking about right now, Jess. It shows it's a current 17th century church replacing earlier churches, and they actually found it on top of the Neolithic dolmen. So if he hasn't,
find my mail.
Keep it going. He can pull it up whenever, but yeah, it's really cool. It's fun that you walked right into that. Because
while I'm looking this up, the monuments around the world tend to be either big rings or needle shaped.
yes.
And have you ever noticed how Christian churches all have a giant steeple? So you put this big stone steeple on one of these points on a ley line. It's kind of like an acupuncture type thing.
Goes back to the nervous system.
So,
and it also represents something we need to talk about next. Saint Michael, who had his fiery sword and slayed the dragon. Yeah.
All right.
So as soon as you pull that up, we'll have to pull up the Michael line.
Here is the image Pam was talking about.
So if anyone that's watching, if you saw me over here with my camera trying to take a picture, this was what I was taking a picture of out of one of my
So,
photos.
there you go. And is there anything else I need to share? Or can I shut that down?
Did you want the St. Michael line?
Yeah,
Did it there?
that should come up next.
Okay. I don't think it ever got bigger, Mark.
There we
Yeah,
go.
it didn't get bigger.
It's not showing on you guys's.
No. We can see you clicking stuff, but we can't see the enlargement.
Oh, well, let's see what I can do here. Let me stop that and share it again. So, just so everybody knows, I used to be pretty tech savvy and I've gotten really, really bad. So
You're not that bad.
You're way better at it than us. I don't even know what to do.
You pulled it out of your email and got it in there immediately. So yeah, you're not bad.
All right. Let's see.
Pam and I just
Don't
hold stuff
mark.
up to our cameras very badly
You
too.
just hold it up. I was like,
Yeah,
You
Gabby,
see
by
this
15,
right
you're
here?
not-
it's not wanting me to show that. Let me cancel that. Share slide, maybe. Nope. I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh.
I'll go old school then. There it is. You can see the dolmen they found down inside of where the churches is, or the original church was.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I'm kind of a.
No.
It's all right. It's not a huge deal. So, I mean, it's nice to see the St. Michael's line, but I mean, I'm just going to talk about it anyway. So,
Oh, there you go.
The St. Michael's ley line is one of the most famous ley lines there is. It stretches all the way from Ireland down through Israel, and it has 7 huge sites on it, all named after Michael. Very interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and just there we go. You
Nice.
got
I
it.
figured it out.
Yeah, the St. Michael's line. So we start off in Ireland with the Skellig Maigil. It's the Twin Peak Crag. I'm sure a lot of people would recognize it if you saw it. I wasn't going to sit here and download every picture of every site because that's just insane. There's 2 very pointy peaks that come up and just almost touch, and it's called the Skellig Michael Crag. And that is the beginning of it. And in fact, they said if you look through the Craig mark, it acts almost like a gun sight, and you can look right through. And if you were capable of seeing the next building, it would line up perfectly. So that's the beginning of the line. And then we have St. Michael's Mount in Great Britain, and it's a castle on an island. We have Mount St. Michael in France, and it's a Benedictine abbey. We have the Sacra da San Michele in Italy, and it's a mounted abbey. The Santuario di San Michele in Italy, it's a Roman Catholic shrine. We have the Santo Monastero di, and I'm going to screw this up, Taxlarchi Michele in Greece. Monastero Stella Maris del Monte Carmelo in Israel. The interesting thing about all of these sites, they were built by different communities. They were built at completely different times. They all are oriented to the sunrise on May 8th.
That's cool.
On May 8th, the sunrise hits the front door and the peak on each one of these buildings. Isn't that interesting?
That is very interesting.
And they're all named after the Archangel Michael.
And they aren't even off even a little bit. They are just right in line.
They're dead square nuts
on about the line. They are on the line.
Yes.
Wow.
On the line. And this is just one of many, many, many ley lines that have collections on them.
Mhm.
And I believe, if I'm correct, the Santuario del Michele in Italy is a cross beam section, and it has 6. What is
Sorry.
Pam
I will
Squeaky
one
Door?
day. Yes, I will. I promise. I will WD-40 my front door.
I will bring you a can.
Oh my
Sorry.
goodness.
What's up, Sonny?
Hey, Sunny. Yeah, that one is a cross, and I believe it has 6 ley lines that runs through it.
Oh wow.
So, yeah, we'll have
Enzo,
to start talking about places that have multi bars coming across it.
Enzo asked, does that line continue on to Cairo?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look
Question.
I mean, the map isn't that big, or I'd bring it up again. It's kind of headed that direction, though.
It may very well be. It may be one of the main ones. It may be one of the lateral continuous lines. Some lines like this one in particular, the Michael line, it only stretches so far and then it ends. Many lines circle the entire planet and touch back to themselves. Some of them spiral around and end up somewhere near an equator. It just depends. Bringing it just a little bit closer to home.
Yeah, Enzo said he was just eyeballing it leading up to
it absolutely could.
Mhm.
Bringing it a little bit closer to home, I've been studying, like I said earlier, I've been studying ley lines for about 12 years now, and really digging into our local area. And I found something amazing. It was a couple years ago. Pam was there with me the day that I found it. So exciting. The show Hellier had been out for just a little while, and we were very into it at the time. The whole Kentucky Goblins.
I still kind of am.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
I am too. Just the insanity in the Appalachian area and what happens there. And I realized that there was a main ley line that came down out of the Kentucky area and hooked into Tahlequah, Oklahoma, which is kind of my baby when it comes to the ley lines. Tahlequah has 5 major ley lines running straight into it. It crosses right over the top of Tahlequah. And it has around 6 minor ley lines that run into it. So it's just a hotbed. And I realized the one that heads out into Arkansas and over goes straight through Kentucky and hits the hot spots there, the Mammoth Caves and all that good stuff that way. Well, I had decided, I was like, I'm going to get a big US map and I'm going to lay these ley lines out and just kind of see if there's anything else to these. And I was actually at the library with Pam that day when I got my map in and was playing around with a ruler and trying to get the curves just right, how they should fall. And I realized that this line that comes down out of Kentucky and hits Tahlequah shoots straight down and it ends in Roswell.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Now it gets even better. So I got home. I was so excited when I showed her that. It was like, it hits Roswell. Oh my God. It didn't occur to me until a couple of weeks later to see where it hit if you went the other way, past Kentucky. And that's when I realized that it goes right through Roanoke and into DC.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's
now,
a lot of paranormal creatures in DC.
It is.
Yeah.
The most exciting thing I found about this is if anybody listening or watching caught some of our past ones that we did with the guys here on the Kentucky area, the ancients and the giants and all of that, out of place artifacts, we talk a lot about the Kentucky, Ohio River Valley area. And all of the Indian tribes were there, especially the Cherokee were very prevalent in the area until they were moved out during the Trail of Tears. And that's when I realized that the Trail of Tears fairly much follows along that ley line. Not directly on it. They actually skim right over the top of it, I'm sure, because I can't imagine that the Indians would want to walk right along a trail that they already knew.
Is that
He's got
the
it pulled up there. Yeah,
picture
that's
you
it.
wanted?
So you can see the end of the blue line, which is actually on your left side there, is in the Tahlequah area. And you can see right up there where Kentucky is. So it skimmed, it bounced right on the top of the ley line.
Bow, bow, bow.
Oh, wow.
Interestingly enough, a lot of the crazy stuff that happened in the Kentucky River Basin area, the stuff that the Cherokees were very involved with, moved right along with them when they came into the Tahlequah area, and Oklahoma became host to some of these weird creatures and stuff that had not been there previously to the Trail of Tears. So just something kind of fun.
There you go.
Speaking of that too, I think, well, I know you found the book first, and I think I had found it, and then we realized we both got a copy of it. Brandon Callahan is actually based out of Kansas City, Missouri, and he's an author. He wrote a book called The Agony That Remains, and he's a paranormal investigator, and he's really interested in ley lines as well. And I think his book was written around, was it like I don't remember what year it was, 2016-ish, somewhere in there. Yeah, 2016. And when we were reading this, and I can't remember exactly, you may remember how we came up with this particular book. But instead of looking for hauntings or chasing hauntings or cryptids or things like that, he looked for where ley lines converge. And the big place that he noticed was Tahlequah, Oklahoma. So he actually followed the ley lines down there. And this book is based on an ongoing paranormal investigation that they did in the area. It's absolutely fascinating. And if you guys want a really good book, well-written book too. Yeah, Jessica got her copy too. We were all like, oh, we can all hold up our copies.
Except for
Really good book though.
we're just left out, Phil.
Yeah, I have it downloaded on audio. I don't read very much.
Yeah. If you want like a really fantastic read, get it. It's basically Oklahoma's Skinwalker Ranch.
It is.
Ooh.
Absolutely.
It has
That's the agony
everything.
He's getting his pen out.
Yeah,
He's
everything that
writing it
could
down.
everything that could possibly happen, paranormal, supernatural, cryptid, anything wise, happens on this one property.
Yes.
It
And
is literally
that's within easy driving distance, man.
It is. And what's really cool was they weren't talking about it. You know, the family wasn't discussing it until he came in the area and said, hey, you know, I'm looking into these things. Do you guys know, is there anything really wild that goes on here?
I
led
smell
him
a
to
possible
this.
road trip, guys.
Oh, 100%. And oh my gosh, I lost his last name. Is it Jason Roberts? I had him on a muck a couple of weeks ago, and he actually is a very good friend of Brandon's, and was working with him on this case. And he said it's an incredible place. He's never been around anything like it before. So yeah, I'm like, ooh, we gotta go.
Yeah,
For
no
sure.
doubt.
That's pretty amazing.
Phil, you want to come?
I'm in.
All right, see,
Awesome.
we'll just
They
make it a
everything,
road party.
guys, from cryptids to little people to UFOs to Bigfoot to hauntings to everything.
It's a cornucopia.
It
Yes.
is.
Whereabouts was this? Down by Tahlequah?
Tahlequah.
Tahlequah. Shadow people, things
Yeah.
disappearing, reappearing,
Mhm.
haunted houses. There's like several buildings on the property, and they each have their own set of ghosts.
Mhm.
Stuff disappearing and reappearing a week later. Equipment messed with. Light anomalies, lights in the woods, will-o'-the-wisp type things. It's literally like a skinwalker cornucopia.
Mhm.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, probably not for them, but I mean, that's a
Come on,
researcher's
Billy.
dream.
Road trip.
That is a researcher's dream. Paranormal potpourri.
Really?
I like it, Enzo.
Yeah.
I like it.
It sounds like they named her a good podcast.
It does.
That is actually paranormal potpourri.
Potpourri. You'd have to say it with a really
That's
bad British accent.
That's all affected bad British accent. And My boss is going to hear this and kill me. I'm not making fun of him. I love the guy.
100%. If
Another-
you have a TBR list of paranormal books, get this one for sure. It's really good.
Absolutely.
Well, it's not on Audible, so
Oh no!
Dang
They'll
it.
never know it. We might have to read it.
Something else I kind of wondered, I was just going to kind of bring it up. I have no idea if it has anything to do with the ley lines, but I've always wondered if the Indian runners didn't use the ley lines.
I think they did.
You know, why not? I mean, there's monuments along those lines.
hmm
You can
What?
actually see the road network out there in the desert if you use LiDAR.
In a past show, we kind of touched on them. That was one of those shows where we kind of had a whole bunch of different topics at the same time. And they ran into dreams, basically. And other people witnessed them running by when they were in a dream state. And I have absolutely no doubt that they were tapping into that energy, which if you would look at energy like flowing, maybe like a river would, which makes sense because sometimes it would ebb and sometimes it would flow, you know, sometimes it'd run deeper, sometimes more shallow. If they could just jump on one of those, that would make total sense of how they could, you know, get somewhere that should take them 3 hours to get within like an hour and a half, or, you know, maybe 3 days to get to, and they could get there in a day and a half. That just makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting energized. And a lot of people believe that if you walk on a nexus of ley lines with your bare feet, that it will actually provide healing energy for you.
Chris, is that sarcasm?
Hey, Mark, could you pull up that map of the U.S. with the ley lines over the top of it?
yeah. Enzo asked, "Is that location and nexus of ley
Yeah.
lines? Is Skinwalker
gonna-
Ranch one?
I'm going to show you.
That one. There's the Tahlequah one.
Actually, try the other one. This one's a little bit on the busy side.
All right.
There should be one with just the U.S. in it. It's like white with the lines on it.
I've got one with the 37th parallel. Did I not get that one? Hold on.
I don't know. I sent you two different emails. So one had 2 on it, one had 1 on it.
Okay. That's not it.
Ooh, I just heard thunder here. Did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hovering like right on the edge.
That's not it.
I actually didn't know if it was thunder or if it was my kid dancing in her bedroom.
Nope, I did not get that one.
You
Chris,
didn't get
don't worry
it?
about it.
No.
I just ordered it. So
Okay. Let me
I just sent her
let
the
me see
name.
if I can resend it to you. Hold on, Enzo. I'll get you.
That's a really fascinating idea about the Indian runners. But I don't know if we actually touched on if they could run on ley lines or not, but it makes sense. I mean,
Yeah, that makes total sense, actually.
and you know what else is interesting that I ran across in one of my books that I haven't got to finish yet, which makes me mad because I know there's some really good stuff in here. It talked about static charge in the human body and how much was built up, and you can release it by basically grounding yourself on the floor. That is it. Yay.
We can probably put a link to that up on the page.
Yeah, we will do that. Yeah, you can basically, you do ground yourself when you touch the earth. You dispel all of that static charge that's in your body, and then it'll build up again. That just makes sense.
take it easy, Sonny. Thanks for hanging out with us.
That happens everywhere, you know.
All right, I sent it to you. See if it'll pop up for you, Mark.
Shouldn't be too long. Dun, 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 dun. Waiting for the internet.
Yay.
There we go. Ah, see, that one didn't show up in the first two.
Oh. Well, now we got it.
Yep.
You know what else? While you're pulling that up, Mark, something that I ran across that I thought was really interesting that I wasn't aware of. Someone has actually done a study on the fact that bees follow the ley lines
Oh, that's cool.
in the UK, and you can follow the drones and everything, and they will go along that path. I mean, obviously they're not all along ley lines, but the larger hives are found on them.
All right.
All right. Can we? Yeah, that's it. Can we zoom in towards Utah?
All right. That's as much as I can zoom in. I don't know. It looks like it meets up there by Salt Lake City. I'm not sure where Skinwalker is.
Skinwalker is literally just slightly down from there, just ever so slightly, and to the west.
Well,
it's dead nuts on one.
Well, right there is a major nexus right there, west of Salt Lake City, up in the corner.
But if you look,
up
it's
in the
connected
Ashley.
to Tahlequah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is it?
The
Yes,
Ashley
it is.
National. Yeah. The Ashley National Forest is that hotbed up in there. And that line that goes down there is all connected to Blind Frog Ranch and Skinwalker Ranch and the Uinta Basin. So there's your hotbed.
Yep, and there's your Tahlequah one.
Yeah.
Right down
And
here. So yeah.
I don't
That
know if
is
you guys.
very interesting that the two hot spots are on a line.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
and
but
you
I
know
don't-
what? Continue to follow it down and see where it's off the coast of Florida,
That's what I was about to say. It's
the
Yeah.
Bermuda Triangle area.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was about to say that.
Yeah, I believe there's 3 lines that pass, or two or three lines that pass through the Bermuda Triangle area. Now, I will tell you that these lines that you're looking at here, this is the best map that I found to show them. They aren't dead nuts on. So, like, the straight line that comes down into Tahlequah is a little closer to our direction than the line of the borders of the states right there. It's a little further over.
A little farther over to the west.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Craig, we saw that too. Lots of them do meet near the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
That is that's very and you notice all of these form triangles.
Yep.
All kinds of triangles.
Yeah. Now, there's another interesting point we should make. As I've studied these lines, yes, the lines are hot, and yes, there's interesting stuff that happens on them, absolutely. But even more incredible is the stuff that happens in the dead center of the triangles that they create.
Hmm.
Would those be vile vortices?
No, I don't believe so. They usually mark water areas, and this is where you find your alien activity.
Missing 411.
So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So, like, hold on a second here. Let me see if I can pull my research up.
What's the name of that lake by Oklahoma City? Is it Lake Hefner?
Which one? There's tons of lakes out there.
It's the one just a little bit on the northwest side of Oklahoma City that has a lot of UFO activity where they're coming in and.
Well, there's Canton Lake, and it's a bit further.
Maybe I have
Canton
the wrong
Lake
name.
is the one that has the UFOs that come in and out of it.
Okay.
They literally splash
Enzo,
down
it looked
in.
like it'd be right in there in that region.
Yeah.
It's
So-
road, yeah.
Yeah, I've been researching for a long, long time, and I started mapping out just in lower Kansas down into Oklahoma, the edge of Missouri and Arkansas. And I've just been collecting all different kinds of stories and kind of laying them down on this map. And I've placed the Bigfoot phenomena cryptids, ball light spook lights, time slips, burial mounds, cemeteries, crop circles, UFOs, and other oddities. Everything that I just listed, except for ball lights, spook lights, and UFOs, all fall on ley lines. 90% of them do. It's like a little magnet for them.
It's incredible.
The UFOs, however, they fall in the triangles that the ley lines make, and there is almost always a large body of water sitting there. They're like entrance exit points for some reason. That's
interesting.
Yeah, and Pam was talking about Canton Lake. So Canton Lake down in Oklahoma, just a year or two ago was the most recent bout that I know of that we heard of. They had a UFO in the middle of the day shoot straight into that lake, and it hit it so hard that it caused a wave to hit every shoreline on Canton Lake, and it capsized boats. People got hurt.
Wow.
Yeah, there was people swimming in the swim areas, and they watched this UFO go in. And they've also, at some points, watched them leave the water, and it caused a suction that caused the boats to get pulled towards the middle of the lake.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
so why don't we hear more about that stuff? I don't answer that. I know why.
Gee, I don't know, Mark.
Yeah. Now, I can't say this is for all ley lines, but it's certainly what's happening in our little area. So I would assume that if these ley lines and triangles act in this fashion here, that they should probably act in the same way elsewhere. I just haven't heard of anybody else mapping them like that.
Right.
I'm hoping one day, I'm trying to find desperately anybody out there who knows of a great mapping system that's not too expensive, that'll allow me to pin stuff in layers and draw on the maps. I would love to be able to
do so, but you can only do 2,000 points before it cuts you off. So we need something that would be like infinite points and infinite lines and things.
I would love to put this all mapped and in an accessible place for people to use.
Enzo says they'll have to post no wake and no warp zone for that lake.
Yeah. It really reminds me
Impulse
of like Brown
power
Mountain.
only.
Of what?
Yeah, Brown Mountain. The UFOs going in and out of the side of the mountain.
Yes.
Only Oklahoma has a lake instead that they use. Very, very interesting.
It is fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
And while it's not a ley line, we kind of sit on a line of interest ourselves. The 37th parallel, while it is not a ley line, also seems to be a magnet for the paranormal.
Yes.
And I will show you where it goes through the United States.
Another great book, if you guys are interested.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Mark has his copy. I don't know if that one's on. That one's more likely on Hoopla than the other one. You might be able to find that on audiobook too somewhere.
Right. So a lot of our state lines are actually put on the 37th parallel, which, I mean,
especially Utah, Colorado, and Kansas were all, it was laid on that's where they cut that off, was on the 37th parallel.
And if you watch there are a lot of UFO sightings right along that parallel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that Ben Mesrick, he wrote an entire book about Chuck Zukowski and all of his experience in researching and everything that he did investigating in regards to things that were happening. And it was kind of unintentional when it started because he was on the Sheriff's Reserve. Was it Arizona, I think, if I remember right? And he started, responding to different things, and a lot of them were cattle mutilations. And when he would go out there and do his investigation, he would take the pictures, and then kind of as an offhand thing, they would be like, yeah, we saw lights in the sky right before we found the cattle, or, these different things. And, he would tuck it away in his mind. And then after a while, he was realizing there's a lot of these that have these same, things, these same things that are happening. So he started keeping track of them. Well, then the sheriff's department got wind of what he was doing and he got fired for doing this. So then he decided, screw it, I'm going to go out on my own and do this. So he got an RV, loaded up his family, and started hitting all these places that were having all these reports. And the more he did, he basically kind of did what Jess did. He hung a map up and started pinning them and realized that they were following along the 37th parallel. And once he figured that out, it kind of really took off at that point. And he realized that this is basically what he calls a main corridor of UFO travel across the United States. And what's really interesting about that is our area, especially Kansas as a whole too, has always been kind of what you would call a flyover state in the paranormal world, meaning there's not hardly any activity here. That couldn't be further from the truth. We all know this because we live here. And
Right.
The longer we're, as a group, starting in 2012, the longer that we're doing this, and the more people realize that we don't tell their names if they don't want us to, we're getting more stories. Like every time we hold a meeting now, we're getting 4 and 5 stories at least at a time. And
Well,
so,
heck. I'm sorry, Pam. Go ahead.
no, if you look at our coordinates on what Mark pulled up right there, Caney falls right on the 37th parallel.
Yeah, this
Yep.
dark line down here, that's the 37th parallel.
Mhm.
And over in this direction where my mouse is the area, you go a little bit farther that way, that's the area my son has seen several UFOs.
Yeah.
recently.
Mhm.
I was going to say that the guy that talked to us at the Paracon, Mark,
Yeah,
that's where
right,
he was saying it
right
was
out
at.
on this road.
He was
Yeah.
freaked out.
Yeah, about 4 or 5 miles down this road here where
Yeah.
my mouse is hanging out.
Work
Yeah.
overstay. That's true. And our next Border Town Presents, we decided to hold it on UFOs, and I'm really excited to see how many more stories that we get, because we've
Yeah.
got at least 20 or more stories now just from the Caney, Coffeyville,
Yeah.
Southeast Kansas, Northeast Oklahoma area.
Hey, Enzo, while you're on here, are you interested in coming down for that?
Yeah, that would be cool.
I finally found it.
Yay!
That I was looking for. So this is just the northeast corner of Oklahoma. Well, no, I take that back. It's almost all of Oklahoma minus the Panhandle. So this is one of the first versions I did when I first started mapping out what fell on the ley lines. So this isn't nearly all of it, and it is convoluted looking. I tried to map it with different colors for the different types of things that fell there. I'm not going to try to explain it, but I figured just the visual alone will kind of give you an idea of how these work with the ley lines. So there's Tahlequah right there.
Yeah.
All of these little X's represent a different thing: a Bigfoot, a haunting, a burial mound, anything like that. And you can see they cluster right along the lines, especially where lines meet at.
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
Insanely enough, you very rarely find a whole lot outside of that, except for in the middle of triangles. Like
A triangle.
here's a triangle right here, and this all right here is Bigfoot activity.
Oh,
Let
wow.
me see if we can get up that higher.
pretty cool.
That's all Bigfoot activity right there. You come up in here, right up in this triangle here, we have a whole bunch. Oop, right there. We have a whole bunch of UFO stuff happening right here.
And where's that at?
This
Is
one's
that our,
that right there is
yeah, where you were showing.
Tulsa.
Is that our area? Tulsa?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you look, like, we are right up in here.
Okay.
This is our area up here. The one that I think is really interesting is out towards the Oklahoma City area. If you look at it, it's kind of in this really, all right, it's hard to do backwards like this. Sorry, guys. Technical just a gigabyte. This huge triangle right here. Right here in the middle. right there, that is all cryptids, not Bigfoot, cryptids.
Wow.
In the middle of that massive triangle, just sectioned right there. It's not right dead on Oklahoma City. It's actually up towards the Edmond area, right in there.
Well,
And
I
it's
mean,
just every kind of weird, creepy cryptid you could think about. No
See,
usual cryptids. It's not
And
like
these are just the
Bigfoot
ones
or
that we've heard the stories of.
Yeah.
And there
yeah,
is
and that
for
brings to mind
every
something that
yeah.
Brian said during our last Border Town Presents. Several of the things you need to have before you get sightings is you have to have something to see,
Mhm.
and you have to have someone to see it. So that's one of the reasons why you see these clusters around populated areas, is
Yes.
because you've got to have something to see and someone to see it and someone to report it. And
He had an estimate too of for every reported sighting, there's at least 10 that go unreported. And that's, again, just what people see. That's just 10 people not reporting. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean that there's just 10 more, cryptids. There's just, yeah.
Yeah, I've looked here. There's around 30 odd cryptids just in that little tiny area that were reported over a 30-year span. That's what I have.
Mhm.
And so could you imagine if there was 30 of those talked about, how many were not? And I tell
Exactly.
you what, they're weird. So they're not like Deer Woman or Bigfoot or the Frogman, like, all the ones that we usually hear about. These are
Mhm.
creepy. Like I have the listing right here. I'm going to read a couple of them because you will be amazed. So we've got
freaked out, you
the
mean?
the gorilla monster, the monkey creature,
I'm sorry,
the wolf,
I was at the beach.
the wolf deer. What the hell's a wolf
I've
deer?
never heard of that one.
Yeah. So we've got the cave dweller with an alligator head.
Oh,
Huh.
well,
Yeah, I have this written off to the side. That one was seen by 3 different people.
that's
Oh,
actually an Egyptian god.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Oh, that's a good
We've got
The god
a
of magic, I
unicorn.
believe.
You got what?
There's a unicorn,
Oh, wow.
a 3-foot lizard man.
Oh. Enzo said he'd love to
It
flip
just
through
keeps
your
on
notebook.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Enzo,
Have
you're
al-
not ready for Jess's notebook. Your
We've
head
got the
will explode.
7-foot tall red-eyed creature.
Where was the
A-
oh, go ahead.
But
I
no,
was
I
gonna
was
say,
just
where
I was
was
just
the octopus at? The tentacle.
Oh, that is in Lake Thunderbird, and there's also one in Tin Killer.
Oh, okay,
supposedly.
10 killer was one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember. Yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Anzo also
And-
said that you needed to digitize that. We're working on it. As soon as we can figure it out, we're digitizing those out.
If I could get, I want that freaking mapping system with files that can go with it, so I can put all of these in there. Because right now it's just sitting in huge, like I sit there and map them by hand and write out all the information by hand. I have it all here. If I could just get it mapped and done it properly.
Mhm.
It would make my life complete, because right now it's just sitting in flimsy paper. Yeah, but Oklahoma is the worst. Oklahoma is the worst when it comes to weird,
Mhm.
freaky cryptids.
Somebody
And
got
they
a
will tell
globe
you all about it.
and see if Egypt sits on the 37th parallel.
Let's see if we can do. Yeah, my
Because
internet's
that one intrigues me, because it's an actual god of Egypt. I can't remember which one it is. I'm pretty sure he's the god of magic.
I don't know. Ooh, while you're looking at that, we can continue it on. So, Kingfisher, Oklahoma, they had a horned man carrying a centaur baby.
Wow.
I want a centaur.
That's crazy.
You can take me to work every day.
I know.
Sobek. That's the name
Oh.
of the god with the crocodile head. The Egyptian god with the crocodile head.
Yeah, my internet's slowing way down. I think the rain's probably getting pretty close. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm digging over here
Yeah.
too.
Enzo got it, and he said 29.9792 degrees north, 31.
So no, it's north of the 37th parallel. All right. Well, there goes that theory.
Well, you know what's interesting is we don't think that there's that much that happens in our area, but a couple of years ago, our team was out talking to someone in the area about some hauntings and some fae activity they were having around their place, and told us at that time they used to live out in the Sandhills, which is where we catch a lot of crazy stuff. And they did have a couple of cattle mutilations occur on their property. And that would have been, I don't know, about 10 years ago, 8 to 10
About a
years
mile
ago.
north of the 37th parallel.
Yeah, if that. Yeah, they're
Mhm.
no, they're not even north of it, Mark. They're on it.
They're on it. So
Hills. They're on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, dead
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah, we have a little hotbed out by our area. We have the 37th parallel that runs through. We have a major river that runs down it, and a ley line that skims across it, across an entire area made of sandstone that has 80% quartz in it.
Mhm.
So we have many exciting things here in Kansas. We're just a little too conservative to let the rest of the world know about it. I
Exactly.
guess.
Nobody ever talks about it till we
Yeah.
come along and decide to tell everybody.
yeah, we
That's
should
right.
put a casino out there and have a haunted casino.
There you go.
I am completely amazed. We've been doing so. Our group's been putting on this little thing called Border Town Paranormal Presents. It's just we're doing like a monthly series on just local lore and legend, or hauntings, or Bigfoot, just to kind of get the community more involved with what it is we're doing. And it has surprised me to no end that I will bring up a topic that I believe is common knowledge in our area. Like, if you grew up here, you know it back and forth. And 75% of the room is looking at me dumbfounded. Like,
Yeah.
what are you
What?
talking about?
Yeah, I've never heard of that. Yes.
Yeah. And
I've
I'm
been
like,
taught too.
how can you not know that? How did that not just get shoved down your throat growing up here? I mean, older
Mhm.
people that have lived there their whole lives and their families before them lived here.
Mhm.
So it's just conservative little Kansas. It's just not talked about that
Nobody
What
wants
I
to
love
talk
is
about it.
is the stories that we're hearing that they never even thought to tell anybody because it happened. They said, tucked it away, never thought about it again until now. These
It's not
topics are
anybody
coming up,
else's
they're like,
business.
yeah, and they're like, wait a minute, this thing did happen to me and my family back in whatever year it was. We just didn't think anything of it, and I'm like, how could you not? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's hilarious. We had one lady came up to talk to me. The last one was on Bigfoot and the Noxie monster in our area, which is another famous Bigfoot. It's just the name of the area it's from.
Mhm.
And afterwards, she was like, I had no idea there was Bigfoot in my area. I'm scared to death now. And I was like, well, you've lived out there for so long. You've not had anything like that happen. She goes, I've never heard of any kind of Bigfoot activity in my area. And then she started into the story about how when she was younger, they had this thing that kept creeping out back behind their back shed, and it would make knocking sounds on it. And one day it made a sound like a baby crying, and they were too nervous to go check. And I was like, I thought you said you didn't have a Bigfoot thing. And she goes, we didn't. And I said, yes, you did.
Thing.
And she goes, oh, well, it happened all the time. And my dad wouldn't go down there and check to see what it was. He was
Yeah.
Because it was
nervous
a big
about
thing.
it.
Those weren't raccoons in your trash.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Those were not raccoons in your trash.
Yeah.
No,
See, I've
sir,
got
it's not.
a really good friend of mine grew up down right on the state line. I mean, where he lives now, if you step across the road, you're in Oklahoma. That's where he's at. Well, right around the corner, not even a quarter of a mile, is where he grew up at. His parents lived there, and all out there in the pasture and stuff. He said when we were in high school, I think, and he said they found Bigfoot tracks out there.
Oh, I'm sure there's more than one story on the BFRO information that is in South Coffeyville that talks about Bigfoot tracks and things out there. And there's one about a guy his light goes out in his yard. So he goes out and changes something in it to turn it back on. And when he did, there was one standing just right there. It scared the tar out of him.
Yeah. We have lots of stories like that. No, I think it's hilarious. These people, they tell you they've never seen anything, and then they have 100 stories to tell you. The same lady I was speaking of, who'd said she'd never seen a Bigfoot, then told me a Bigfoot story, had said, she'd never seen anything out in the sandhills where she lives. She'd never heard of anything going on, and then she gave Pam and I a complete UFO story,
an incredible
like a complete
one too.
In fact, I'll just tell a little bit right now because it is so amazing. Basically, her and her family were coming back from the movies here in town, and they saw a UFO in the sky and actually said, "Holy crap, is that a UFO?" And their dad was like, "I think it is." And then guess what? Their car died.
Completely.
And they couldn't get it to restart. So they walked home because they were about a quarter of a mile away from their house, and they got home and went to bed. And in the morning, their dad called their nearest neighbor to see if he would come and help them jump the car and see if they could get it back home. And he goes, "Well, I would, but I was coming home last night and I saw this weird thing in the sky and my car died at the end of my driveway."
Oh, wow.
Right? Dude ended up calling him right back because he went out and decided to try to start the car one more time. And of course it started right up, and he came back in, called this woman's dad and said, "Well, my car started right back up. I'll be right there and help you get your car jumped." And he hung up the phone, and her dad thought, "I wonder if the car will start too." So he walked all the way back to their car, turned right over, brought it on home. So,
and these are very credible people in our community.
Yeah.
Extremely credible. And it cracks me up that we're hearing these stories now.
Let's make one.
Yeah.
Let's make one. We can sell it on Amazon. No warp zone.
That would be cool.
yeah, it's just people make me laugh so hard. It's just like, I think it's just kind of how campfire stories work. One person starts the story, and then suddenly everybody else remembers something that happened to them.
They've blocked out of their mind. And see, that's what's happened. It's not that she'd never seen it. She'd blocked it out of her mind because it was too creepy.
I ran across something that I was reading the other day, and it talked about the fact of a lot of these things happen around us. And if our brain doesn't have the words or the comparison to make with something else, it just doesn't see it. You're blind to it, basically. And I think that's fascinating because when you think about the saying, you look into the abyss and the abyss looks back, or, once your mind is expanded, it can never shrink back to how it was prior. I think that's got so much truth to it. And it really lends to that because once you know it's there, you're going to see it. And
I think that's what we've seen in our events. People seen it and didn't have a context to put it in, so they just brushed it. Their mind just says, "That's trash." And then they come to one of those deals, like the brain starts putting it together. Oh, yeah. I see.
I had a family friend come to Paracon. She's in her 90s. And the friend that was with her, she's in her 70s. And they were both like, after we had the UFO panel, they were both like, I saw a UFO and it was in 1953 or something like that. And it was over close to Dead Man's Hill, going to Coffeyville. And we were just shocked. And she's like, "Oh, yeah, I hadn't thought about that in years, And it's like, whoa, we need to get this story down.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, is it? I think a lot of it also has to do with people. I don't know that I want to say denial, but it's been conditioned out of them to not think of things like that. They're not as open-minded.
Well, and it's terrifying. And if somebody's terrified, they're going to file it away and try not to think about it too.
Right.
Well, it's kind of like
tries to protect you.
Yeah, we did a little investigation on that kind of stuff after the Sally House incident that we had, where we had an amazing time but didn't realize it until weeks later. And I named it PED, Paranormal Event Disassociation, after PTD, which is the psychoanalytic term for peritraumatic dissociation, which is basically something happened to me and I can't process it, so my brain's going to forget it for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
It files it
Enzo.
away, but it doesn't file it away,
Oh.
I think it puts it into permanent memory, but not memory that you can automatically pull back up again for yourself unless it's triggered by something.
Yes, Hanzo. Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Enzo said our own psychology will usually push unnecessary things out of our head if it's
Mhm.
not an immediate threat. That's why I think these things are around a lot more than people think.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
It's kind of scary to think. We've always wondered, we disassociated from the Sally house so easily, and for weeks on end
It
didn't
was
think anything
scary,
of
really,
it.
when we realized what happened.
Yeah, but what's even scarier is what is it that we're not remembering? We're missing nearly an hour. The question is are we missing that hour? Did we skip an hour? Or did something happen within that hour that none of us are remembering for a reason?
Did something make us forget?
Yeah, but regardless of whatever happened, what happened in that hour to us? It is scary to think.
If I ever had the
an hour's
chance
a long
to be
time.
put under hypnosis, that would be the experience that I would like to bring back, is the Sally House experience.
Do you want to? Do you want
No,
to
I
get
don't
regress
know.
into
I don't
that?
know.
Because it scares the bejesus out of me. I mean,
Once
I am
it's out, you
a
can't put it-
researcher. I'm an investigator. I will run to that thing that just told me to get the hell out. But that scares the bejesus out of me.
Mhm.
I don't know if I want to know what happened to us in that, I think it was 48 minutes.
Yeah.
That we are missing.
Mm-hmm.
All I know is that after it was over with, I was tired and I felt like I was going to vomit. Well, you guys know I laid on the couch for the rest of the time we were there because I was so dizzy. And I don't want to know.
And look at
We
all
were
of us.
probed.
We got home. We got home and we had such a great experience, and we knew it was, we should be on top of this. And it's not like us to just go home and all four of us, just set our equipment aside, set all of our information aside. None of us touched it for a good 3 weeks at the very earliest. And when we did, we got to reading over it and we're all like, holy cow, what? Wait a minute. What happened?
Yeah, we were completely complacent to it.
Yeah.
And we talked about it later. On our way home, we had a long drive home from Atchison.
Yeah, like
from the
3.5
top of
hours.
Kansas all the way to the, and it was me and Pam and Mark because Mike had taken a separate vehicle because he was doing family stuff that weekend. And the whole way home, we didn't really talk about it at all. We just talked about other things and listened to the radio and chit-chatted, and nothing really was said.
We rocked all the way home.
So I kind of want to know too. I do. I think that happened in 2018. So I think we're far enough away from it at this point. I could deal with it, but prior to now, I don't know if we would have been ready. And Jess is still not ready. I can just like, nope.
Nope, not happening.
Nope.
What I want to know is Atchison near a ley line?
It's on a massive body of water right there. What river is that? It's a big one. It's not the Mississippi, is it? What is that?
Is that the Missouri River?
Missouri, yeah.
Missouri River, yeah.
It is right on it. And actually, the Sally house itself, what is now the front of the house, was originally the back of the house. The river had rose to the point to where it wiped out the entire road that it was set on originally. So they just basically put a road on the back of it and faced the house the other way. They didn't move the house physically, but they just made the back door the front door, which we didn't know until after we'd been there and did a little bit more digging on the house itself. But yeah, that's how close it is to a major waterway, and that's how close it is. That's probably why there's so much traffic activity in that area too, or at least lends to it.
Crap. It's not on a ley line. It's in the middle of a triangle.
No, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
With the water.
It's part of the large triangle coming up out of there's a mass amount just above Dodge City. It's another hotbed area.
It
So
is.
there's a line that shoots up out of there and makes part of the triangle with our line that comes up and the line that shoots down and goes through Tahlequah.
Oh, so
Wow.
the UFO superhighway is connected.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm not saying that every haunting and everything has something to do with the ley lines. I'm just saying that that kind of stuff is attracted to them.
Mhm.
And I'm
The
sure there's
reason
probably some scientific reason for some of this. It's
the
beyond
reason
me.
why I asked is because it seemed to be such a powerful phenomenon.
Yes.
So I'm guessing that the water mostly fueled it.
Mhm.
Probably. That's what I'm guessing.
Either that or the energy that the water creates, because
mean,
Yeah.
we capture water now to convert into energy.
That's dirty water, so it conducts electricity and it's flowing through the magnetic field of the earth.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm by no means saying that every haunting and every cryptid and every UFO sighting has something to do with the ley lines. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying they're prone to it.
I was just wondering, since that was such an interesting adventure.
And so that's a good
Oh
question.
no.
And so there's not a lot of
Enzo,
people north of Dodge either. And so
no,
there may
I'm
be a lot of activity
literally
that is just not
when I
reported.
say north of Dodge City, I don't mean like way north of Dodge City. I'm talking about sitting on top of the city of Dodge City.
Ooh.
Out in the outlying area up above and up into the rural area. That place out there is a hotbed too.
Again, you've got your deal. You've got to have a phenomenon and somebody to see the phenomenon.
Mhm.
And also, I should bring this up because we didn't even talk about it. Not all ley lines are active. Some of them are asleep. Ley lines sleep sometimes. And there are sublines too. So like speaking about our area, we always talk about the line that comes down out of the Kansas City area. It kind of crosses just to the east of us and goes down into Tahlequah. And that's a big main line. We have a big main line that comes out from the Dodge City kind of area and down to the Tahlequah area. So we kind of get set up in the middle of a triangle. But we have a semi-major one that runs right through our Sandhills area and just clips the bottom part of Caney and down. And that's like a medium-sized one. There's ones even smaller than that. And sometimes they're on and sometimes they're off. That's why when we talk about when our river gets really high and it crests or we have a lot of rain, it charges that line and it activates it. And suddenly it becomes one of the big lines for just a short while. And we get sorts of weird activity. These lines are charged, they discharge. Some of them go to sleep for a long time and then reactivate again. It's like what Pam said earlier. It's like somebody's nervous system. Like it's constantly, it's firing or it's calming down or it's firing over here.
That makes me think of, there's a place here in town that we've investigated that had a spot in it that would like build up energy and then release. And yeah, I could very well see that being underneath that area. Something else about Caney too is there's quite a few springs around town that pop up all the time. There's one actually it's called Spring Street down by the post office that keeps coming back up, and they have to keep digging up the road and it's worked its way into old gas lines that are no longer used. And so when it gets into them, it just completely floods the road out in places and tears up the asphalt and stuff. So they're always going in and having to repair those.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Yeah.
we sit on top of a huge aquifer.
Yes, we do. I don't know who was. Somebody asked that question, like what could charge the ley lines?
Yeah, it was Enzo.
Multitudes. Yeah, multitudes of things. Natural water, quartz, even storms.
Yeah,
can start them. You can go clear back, like use science or whatever, and you can use like the Shermer resonance.
sure.
That charges them like crazy too. Just like that works just like
harmonics and everything else, though.
As
Which is something
humans,
I
we
wanna
have
Yeah.
created artificial ley lines.
Mhm.
Railroad
Well,
tracks carry
okay.
energy.
Oh yeah.
And
Highways.
then we have all of these batteries, basically, like in China, where they have the field with 100 pyramids in it. Maybe that's what they use them for, is to build that energy up and to send it on a specific line for some unknown reason.
It could very
I
well
don't know.
be. And then, oh my goodness. So something else you can also consider, the way that stuff travels on the ley lines, they're basically what we would call a liminal space. It's like a road.
Yes.
So you have that oddity going along with it too. It makes me wonder how the energy travels along with it. Like, does it get pushed along? Is it like an electrical cord, or I don't know.
Does it have
They're
to
just
make
so
a circuit
interesting.
and flow?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yes.
something that just hit me. I don't know if it is or isn't, but I was just thinking about what you're saying with the energy flow and all that. Is this something that maybe Nikola Tesla was onto?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
I'm
With
sure.
the
People,
energy in the
yeah.
atmosphere?
People
You-
wondered if, like, he had the supposed machine that he was going to give to the world for free that was going to give us free energy forever and ever. And people have postulated that maybe he was going to harness the ley lines in some fashion to do
Yep.
it.
That is a
Because
theory.
Well,
it was
yeah,
kind
he
of
said that the world was filled with electricity that was free for everyone.
Mhm.
You just
Yeah.
had to
Yeah.
tap into it.
You know,
because there was something I watched here. It's been a week or two ago, talking about the Tunguska event. I know this
Mhm.
isn't really related, but if you draw a line from, I forget the name of his headquarters in New York. I forget. And Admiral Byrd at the time, he'd messaged him when he was going to the Arctic, and and basically let Admiral Byrd know, hey, there's going to be, you'll know my sign, basically. And when he set this ray, I mean, they don't know exactly what it is, but when they set this ray off, the exact line, because Byrd was in Greenland, but the exact line where this ray hit was from New York to Greenland to the Tunguska area when it hit and set it off. They theorized that it was a meteorite or whatever,
Mhm.
but that was just a possibility they were talking about. Was this could have been like Tesla's death ray or whatever, that he pulled the energy out. So it's pretty interesting.
That
Well,
is.
good God, if it was, I'm glad it's lost.
Yeah.
No kidding. That's
Is it
scary.
lost? Is it
I,
one of those
Probably
things
not.
we're
I would
storing?
certainly hope so.
Yeah.
It's sometimes it's hard to visualize what the resonance would look like. But if I know that they can take like a tone generator, and you can hook it up to a speaker, and you can pour sand on the speaker,
Mhm.
and you can make it jump. And when it does, it's going to go into specific patterns based on the resonance, the speed
Right.
of,
We should do a show on the resonances,
yeah.
because
There's
the
some
Indians
really
were
cool YouTube
really interested in that.
There's some really cool YouTube videos out there that just show
Yep.
where they've just hooked up a speaker and done it, and it's neat. It's neat to watch.
Well, it makes you wonder how the ancient Indians came up with these designs that we can recreate by using sand on a speaker.
Mm-hmm.
So
They had old world technology we know nothing of.
100%. 100%.
Because we have amnesia.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think you're right.
Well, guys, we should probably wrap up.
Oh man.
Yeah, I know the guy that showed up late.
Party
I could do
pooper.
this all night, but then I wouldn't be able to go to work tomorrow.
Exactly. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I haven't had dinner yet.
Oh hell, he's gonna fall. He's gonna collapse from low
No
blood sugar
wonder.
here in a
It's almost
second.
9 o'clock.
Trust me, I've got enough. I'll be all right.
All right.
So, yeah, I mean, good show, guys. I mean, it was super informative.
Mhm.
I know we've touched on ley lines multiple times, but I like the deep dive. I mean, it was just, I think, again, it was one of those things I think raised more questions than answers.
Mhm.
And that's what's fun.
Oh,
about
That's how it. That's how it
what
always
makes
is.
it fun.
Yeah,
That's what makes it fun.
Definitely.
absolutely.
All right.
Ladies, thanks again for coming and hanging out with us. We always
Yeah,
enjoy you.
anytime.
Absolutely, it's so much fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm
Enzo
like-
said great. Enzo said great show. He still has a dozen questions.
So do I.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We
for
all
sure.
do.
Yeah.
Which means we're
Um,
going to be digging into our books again and coming up with some more stuff.
Yep. Hey, I did order that book. I did order
Oh,
that one
cool.
book. So
It's really good.
I'll have to sit down
Yes.
and try to read it if I get a chance.
Yeah.
That's why I
There's
like
not going to be any
listening.
trying. It's going to be trying to put it down.
Yeah.
It's one of those kind of books where you don't want to stop. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's why I listen to audio, because I can listen while I'm working or doing stuff out in the
Mhm.
yard or mowing or whatever.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's not in there. But I did see the 37th parallel one on Audible, so I may have to pick that one up.
Yeah, for sure.
You can always borrow mine.
Or mine.
Or mine.
Or Pam's.
We're so nerdy. We all have our own copy.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
we're yeah,
I'm gonna put on Scribd. If y'all are looking for a great resource for obscure books, Scribd, I love it. I absolutely love it. There's
yeah, I
all
found
kinds
some
of
great
fun
stuff on there.
Yeah. I was wondering if it would be on there.
I see the blood sugar falling.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Phil
I
is
see
trying
it.
to leave us.
Oh.
37th parallel
just-
is on audiobook on Scribd.
Yeah. It's on Scribd.
It is on Scribd. The audiobook
Nice.
is. And I think I want to say my subscription's like $12.99 a month for Scribd, something
Oh.
like that. But I think you can get 90 or 30 days free. So
Nice.
it might be worth a
That's a little bit cheaper than Audible.
mm-hmm.
So, but
All right,
anyway, guys, we again, we definitely appreciate it, and we, like I said, we always enjoy having you on, and you bring so much more intelligence to the show than just Mark and I. So
I don't know if it's intelligence. It's something.
Those said, Bill said, yes, I am.
It's very true.
Yeah, I've been going nonstop here for a while now, so trying to get everything caught up at home and projects and work and
Soccer.
Never ending.
soccer now. Yeah, we'll be at soccer for the next month, at least 4 nights a week usually. So,
Well,
but-
I'm gonna go WD-40 my door when we get off of here.
Finally, I've been asking her to do that for a couple of years now. Jeez.
Yeah, I know.
well, mine squeaks too, Pam. That's how I know it's opening. So it's kind of my
Mine sounds-
alarm.
That's what I said. It's a good alarm, in the middle of the night. If I hear that, I know somebody's trying to get in.
Right.
I call it lazy.
Well,
Laziness.
pretty sure I have some. I'll have to look for it.
But, all right, everybody. Well, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Thanks for being in the chat. It's been a lot of fun. Good questions. Enzo said he can hear that door way up in Derby. Yep. But yeah, I mean, it's been great. We enjoy having everybody in the chats, and it just makes everything even that much more fun. That being said, folks, thanks again, and we'll catch you next episode.
Bye.
Bye.
Night.